Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
Hi, this is Aaron Campbell with Ohmnilabs, and you're listening to the New Warehouse Podcast. Today's safety tip is to always look both ways before crossing the aisle.
With e-commerce off the charts, many small and growing warehouses are asking, how can I get ahead when my warehouse is barely keeping up? The answer is future-ready warehouse tech from Zebra Technologies. Warehouses can simplify and upgrade all processes, from automated inventory management to hands-free picking, with Zebra's tailored, scalable mobile solutions. They're simple and intuitive. There's never been a better time to upgrade for success with Zebra. How can your warehouse get ahead? The answer's in black and white. Get the answers at zebra.com/theanswer. That's zebra.com/theanswer. Fulfillment demand continues to skyrocket and outpace available labor. To keep up, warehouse operators are turning to flexible fulfillment solutions like 6 River Systems. Utilizing 6 River Systems' award-winning combination of collaborative robots, artificial intelligence, and operational expertise will make your associates and wall-to-wall fulfillment workflow more efficient. No new infrastructure, no change to warehouse layout, easy to deploy and scale, easy to train and retain associates, all at half the cost of traditional automation. Want to take your fulfillment operation to the next level? Go to www.6river.com to learn more. That's www.6river.com to learn more.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. On today's episode, I am joined by Aaron Campbell. He is the Strategic Partnerships Lead at Ohmnilabs. And Ohmnilabs is focused on bringing robotic telepresence solutions to your workplace, not only the warehouse, but all workplaces in general. I got a demo of it a while back. It's very cool technology. It is basically like you are on a Roomba almost, but your video feed is on top and you're able to see wherever that robot is located at, and you can be anywhere you want to be. So Aaron is going to talk to us about that. He's going to talk to us about kind of how that idea came about and some applications that it's being used for and some of the success stories that's come from that as well, not only during COVID, but now also as we're moving out of COVID as well. So Aaron, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me. No, I'm doing well. Trying to stay warm and bring in summer here in Chicago.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, and the last time I mentioned that we got a demo prior, about a month ago, I guess it was. And I think it was, just the beginning of April, and the forecast was snow for you guys. So it's good that it's warming up.
Exactly. Yeah, no, my California-based team at our headquarters, they always brag when we're on video calls and in the robot when I can look outside and actually see the weather there. So I'm glad to be back in the game with the summer months ahead.
Well, the next update, you got to get the warm weather to be able to be felt through the robot, right? That's it.
Well, exactly. We're about there.
That's good news. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Ohmnilabs and what it is that you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you kind of alluded to, Ohmnilabs is a demand-driven robotics company. So we're a startup. We're based in Silicon Valley, and we were founded in 2015. Mm-hmm. And really what we do is our goal is to bring robotics, and more specifically service robots, mainstream. So I always like to call us kind of the Build-A-Bear of service robots, meaning that the market or companies come to us with particular problems or use cases, and we kind of build on our robotics hardware and software capabilities to bring solutions to market.
Interesting. Yeah. And so, one of the solutions, I guess, which is the main solution for you guys, right, is this telepresence robot. So tell us a little bit about that and what that is. That's what I got a demo of. It's very cool. So why don't you explain it to us?
Yeah, no, actually our flagship product is the telepresence robot. So that's the first product, the first type of robot that we developed. And really what that is think FaceTime on wheels that you can control remotely. That's probably the easiest way to think about it, or Zoom on wheels. And really what that allows you to do, right, is to, from any device, jump into a robot that stands at around 5 feet tall in a location anywhere in the world that you have a robot deployed, and then to be able to autonomously navigate around a space. And so there's a two-way video and audio feed element there, so that way you can see what's going on in the space, and the folks that are in the space perhaps can also see the display, what you're doing and who's calling in, and so you can have that conversation and actually interact.
Definitely, yeah, and I think it's really cool. And the demo I got, and I got some video of it too. I think I'll post on the website if that's okay. And then it's really interesting concept. I mean, it's a pretty simple concept, right? So it's really interesting that no one, I guess, has thought about it before. But it's I guess those are some of the best ideas, right? When they're like, you're like, oh my god, like I should have thought of that. Yeah, it's like you said, you can remotely control it, and I was controlling it in the demo, and yeah, I could make the robot basically go wherever I wanted it to go within the confines of the space that it was in. So, which is dependent on where you place it, basically, and really cool because. One of the things we were talking about during the demo was that, it's a great solution for those people that are, managing multiple sites, director level, things of that nature, executives who, maybe they need to go check on a project, but, the reality is like, oh, you're going to fly out to this other city for like a day just to check out a project for like 2 hours, maybe or maybe even just an hour, and then, fly back out. So you're taking a lot of time just to take a little bit of time to look at something, and you can really, really kind of be there. And, versus having maybe somebody hold you on FaceTime, or even just being like on a video call with a computer, you can't necessarily look at the things that you want to look at, and who knows, maybe people are, intentionally avoiding you looking at something. But with
Exactly.
with this, like, you can definitely go around and see all the things that you exactly want to see. So it's a really interesting idea. Like I said, it's kind of like a simple idea, but it's like this like very smart thing. So, I'm curious, how did the idea of this kind of come about?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, right, you hit the nail on the head when you said that it really is so simple that it just makes sense, and so those are oftentimes some of the best ideas. But yeah, the idea, back in 2015 when the company was founded, really came out of the need for the founding team who was here in the States but had family abroad, to actually have a more interactive sort of, presence with them. And so, crossing over, we all know international travel, if you've flown internationally, it takes a lot of time. It also takes a lot of money. And they thought, man, there has to be an easier way. And so certainly there are other solutions, right, in the space that could potentially allow for that, right? FaceTime being one of them, Zoom. But really what those are missing is that autonomy element, as well as that ability to actually interact, right? I don't know how many times my arm has like fallen asleep trying to pop up my FaceTime call, right? While I'm talking to my mom, or, I'm tethered to my laptop when on a Zoom meeting. And so it really kind of, with a telepresence robot, our Ohmni robot, it brings people, whomever needs to be into the space and allows them to have actually control over what they're looking at, who they're talking to, where they're at in the space. But that was really the sort of founding concept. And then kind of from there, as again, good ideas do, it sort of finds a home in different verticals and different markets. And so that's exactly kind of what we're seeing, in rapid speed with sort of warehouse and manufacturing applications.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting, the example you gave of the FaceTime, like holding it. We talked about this when we did the demo, actually. But yeah, I mean, I recently, with COVID, during the day, work as inventory control manager, and we had to do kind of an audit with our financial audit company for our cycle counts. And typically, someone would come on site and just observe the counting, ask a couple questions, look at the inventory, that type of thing. But because of COVID, they didn't want to come on site. So we had to do this observation through FaceTime on the phone, which is like, we're talking, we have racking 30 feet in the air. So the cycle counts could be anywhere from the ground level up to all the way at the top of the rack. So I'm like on the floor doing like a 3-way FaceTime. I'm on the floor holding FaceTime, showing like the person counting up in the air. Then the person counting has got FaceTime on the thing so she can show the product up close and things of that nature. And we're both just like dying because our arms are like killing us, like standing. I mean, we're doing this for like an hour and a half. I think we were doing it straight, almost 2 hours. And then finally, like, luckily my battery was about to die, so I had a reason to take a break. But yeah, I mean, something like this, like, is the perfect idea for that, because then, like, even the person, like the auditor, could, control it and move it around to take a look at what they want to see and how they want to see it. Because even that is tricky too, because you're communicating to the person on the other side, like, oh, can you show me this? Like, move up a little bit, and then they're like, oh, no, not that. Like, to the left a little bit, and you're kind of like, we're not on the same page here, trying to figure out what you want to see. So being able to essentially move the FaceTime or Zoom or whatever the case may be to where you need it to go and what you want to look at is really a great opportunity to get better communication and also just, get better insight too into what's going on in places that you may not be so easily accessible for you.
Exactly.
So really, really a great idea, like I've been saying, but, so why don't you tell us a little bit more about how it actually works? Like, what is the platform that it's utilizing, and, how do you really get it involved into your operation?
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely. So the nice thing is that, the robots themselves are pretty low in terms of resources required for deployment and very user-friendly. And so at the core level, you need a device that has an audio-video feed that you're going to be jumping in or calling into the robot from, right? So that could be a phone, a laptop, a tablet, iPad, you name it, right? You go to a web address, app.ohmnilabs.com is one of the examples where you would go then to log in, just as you would with an email or any other account. And then on the other side, you'd see the robots that you have access to, and then you'd click a button and you'd be able to jump in. And you're automatically on site, able to start roaming around, talking to people, joining meetings, doing audits or inspections. And it's that simple. You use your on-screen buttons, or if you're on a touch screen, or your keyboard, if you're using a more traditional laptop or PC. And that's how you drive around. And then you can click on what you want to look at. That moves your neck tilt, and really between the arrow keys and the actual mouse point and click, you can move and see basically a 360-degree view of what you want to see. And this is totally with no actual intervention or requirements or action needed from anyone on site. This is totally just you jumping in on site, being where you need to be when you need to be there.
Definitely, yeah. And I think it's really easy because it uses just like, can use like a Zoom platform, right? Basically.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's no real difference, and I think there's some flexibility there in the platform you're able to use, and the ability to control, I think, is the biggest thing, because you're able to see what you want to see. And it does make it even a little more interactive too. It makes you like kind of almost human in a sense, like, as you can actually like walk with, somebody else on the floor essentially, or, follow somebody and they can show you what they're talking about a little more easily. So I'm interested to know, because you said you guys founded in 2015, and obviously with the pandemic and COVID, this is something that's really a plus for people that are trying to figure out how to get someplace that maybe could not, because of restrictions or whatever the case may be, because of the risk of getting sick, difficulty traveling, things of that nature. But prior to the pandemic, only started last year in 2020. So, there's 5 years in between there. So what kind of applications and, what kind of operations were adopting the technology prior to that, and for what reasons?
Yeah, no, so that's a great question. And certainly COVID is catalyzed, in many spheres, the adoption of the robots, right? People are saying, hey, I need to be places. I don't have a way to easily get there because of travel restrictions or health concerns, et cetera, right? And they're looking for solutions. And certainly ours is one that, if you have any of those concerns or questions, it's a no-brainer, right? But before COVID, we were a startup with a kind of a crazy idea, as most startups do have, and so it was interesting, to your point, we've seen uptake in various markets and verticals in terms of finding early adoption for this. And I will say, warehouses and manufacturing settings weren't one of the early ones. And that's actually, it says what it says about particularly probably the industry, or, the rate of change and adoption for new tech. I know it can be hard in those sort of environments, but we saw it in education. So connecting students to classrooms and teachers to classrooms prior to COVID, in healthcare. So connecting children, for example, that are in isolation and getting visitors into the room, doctors into the room from afar. But we also saw it in more traditional personal uses, right? So I need to commute right to my office, and I'm just got moved across the country. So I need a presence there, or I have a family member, that would, I can't see anymore, grandma, grandpa, because I moved, and so I want to kind of be able to jump in and visit them in a more interactive way. So those were what we were seeing sort of before COVID.
So then I guess talk to us about, how things have evolved with COVID, because I think you guys are now getting into more manufacturing, warehousing environments, and how is it being utilized in those types of settings?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what they say, right? Like, necessity is the mother of invention. And the reality is, right, COVID happened, but business needs to go on. And I think that that's something that everyone, in the workforce can relate with and too. But it really, I think, hit home, especially when we think about the supply chain sector as well as manufacturing, right? Whether, you pick whatever the actual sort of nature of the product is. We look at sort of the demand for goods and whatnot across the spectrum at an all-time high in many senses across different verticals. And so what we actually started seeing is an influx of inbound requests and interest coming from Fortune 500 manufacturers, CPG providers, automotive companies, electronics, consumer electronics, saying, hey, we need to get to our, fill in the blank, our warehouse, our shop floor, in, across seas, across the country, et cetera. And people just weren't able to travel. And this is back, the beginning of the pandemic, or when we were really, really at the beginning, and probably the most unknown part of this is when we started getting sort of these little signals from folks. And then over time, we sort of pieced it together and started to really understand that, wow, there actually is a large need, and this continues to today. And so really, what we're seeing is, the deployment of these robots, not only out of necessity now, but out of strategic innovation, right? Taking the pandemic and the fact that business has gone on with these travel restrictions, and actually folks saying, wait a second, what is a more sustainable solution long-term that helps us to embrace the benefits of having reduced travel, including the time savings, the cost savings, but also is better than me relying on someone holding up a FaceTime call and taking their time and their energy doing something that's not their job, or better than the whole laptop on cart sort of solution that, was hacked together throughout COVID to just get by. And that's really the conversations we're having nowadays in terms of, hey, we're looking for a way to keep our travel requirements down, but really allow folks to get in when they need to get in. The robot's an example for that. And so that would be vendor support, for example. So, working with third parties and needing to get eyes from a third party on something in the site. That would be one example. Another one would be for the 3PL space, working with customers, making sure that they're able to do their audits, but also making sure that they can come in and actually get things ready or make sure things are the way that they need to be in preparation for peak demand or peak times. That would be another one. But then there are kind of, I would say, our strongest hold in the warehousing, supply chain, manufacturing spaces would be around quality improvement and continuous improvement. Right. And these are probably the biggest ones because that's where we see the activities where we have these folks who traditionally, pre-COVID, traveling all the time, needing to be around an entire region or sometimes globally to actually make sure that a certain level of operational excellence is upheld, that everyone's following standard procedures, that things are right where they need to be for customers or internally for safety, EH&S, et cetera. And they're able to now use our robots to continue to not have to go back to that crazy travel schedule, but actually to get on site now more than they would even before, right? It's what was once, I need to do it monthly or quarterly, just out of the necessity because of costs and those sort of considerations. They can actually start doing these audits and these inspections more regularly. And so those are sort of some of the use cases that we're seeing in this space that are really, really taking off.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think there's a lot of opportunities there for like cost savings, and not only the cost savings, but I think it's, the well-being of the employees too as well, because you get a lot of people traveling all the time and things of that nature, and you end up burning some people out sometimes. So being and like I mentioned earlier, sometimes it's not even for, you flying somebody for 4 hours to do something for 2. I mean, what's the point there, right? And it's interesting because I think too, as you see, a lot of distribution networks like expand and grow, you end up with a lot of warehouses in different parts of the country, different regions. And a lot of times what you see is, the people to support the warehouse, like IT and HR and things of that nature, like they're not necessarily located at the facility. So then, you end up with this remote situation, and if they can get in and, take a look at something like that, like you have an IT person, a printer's not working, and, at least they can get in, they can look and look around and see what you're seeing, maybe help guide you on how to kind of troubleshoot it as well. So, it's really a lot of different applications I think that it can be used for. And I'm interested to see how, it continues to grow, and definitely the different applications that are provided or that customers come up with as well. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about, I think it's obvious that there's a use case for it, not just in COVID times. As you see, we're using it pre-COVID, obviously, and now post-COVID, I think, it's going to stick as well, because even the reduction in, people going into the office itself, I think that it's going to have more adoption there as well. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, kind of what's next for Ohmnilabs? Like what's the future of Ohmnilabs look like?
Yeah, no, definitely. So, that's a great question, and one it's an exciting answer. So, we obviously have our flagship, our product, our telepresence robot, and that is very much the bread and butter, and also the launch pad for what's coming next, right? Okay. So what I mean by that is, right now the telepresence robot, is a tool. It's an extension of our human capabilities that allows for cost savings, time savings, and overall efficiency, right? So that's the idea. It's a tool. And a lot of people sometimes, especially in a supply chain or a manufacturing setting, when they think about robots, they think about, oh, it's automating X, or, it's doing this. And there's something that we kind of think of. Well, I'm bringing this up because right now the robot is a tool, right? It's a tool that we use to make our lives easier or better, but very much allow us to do what we do best. Interact with other people, put the critical thinking hat on, inspect the things that we need to inspect, et cetera. Well, where we're going next is really taking that sort of, core theme and then adding on with respect to those particular next level extensions. So those would be things like, okay, so we know that we can use this tool, this robot, to actually get things done. But what if we automated the pathfinding for it? What would we be able to do then? Now, we, of course, can still use it as a tool, but perhaps we can do it with surveillance as an example. Another example of this would be doing things like UV cleaning. It wouldn't be out of the question to think that, there's certain sort of capabilities that way. Right. So the idea then is, taking the idea of autonomy, of mobility, and then of course the video feed, the video audio feed, and thinking about what are those next applications that'll make our clients in the market their life easier by being able to have these core tools and then extending them and kind of adding on in the same way you would with an app, right, on your phone, new apps that actually make your life easier or make your work easier. And so that's kind of where we're going next, is we're going to build on what we already have, what we do well, which is the hardware. We make these in-house, by the way. We use additive manufacturing, which is pretty cool. And then we're going to say, okay, well, what comes next? What's the next service that we can use to actually extend the sort of value that this offers these particular industries and the clients?
Yeah, definitely. I can see a lot of possibilities with it. Even you're talking about the pathfinding, automated surveillance, basically. I mean, I think that's an awesome use for it. And, kind of if you think about the technology that's out there now, and if you're able to, record the video as it's going along and then be able to view it later, that's even great for, like these continuous improvement, quality walks, Gemba walks, like you're talking about earlier. But I'm even thinking like, there's potential, and I don't know, maybe I'm giving you guys an idea here, or maybe you guys already have this idea, but
bring it on, sure.
Even like doing surveillance, and there's companies out there that are they're working on like computer vision and being able to recognize like safety issues or things that are out of place, even just sending in an automated walk, and then when it recognizes something that's out of place, being able to just kind of send an alert. I mean, that's even really a good use case in the future, I would think.
100%. No, and that's actually in this space that we're in, which is obviously relevant. That's one of the sort of exciting things that we're marching toward. And so, that's what we get when we have video. And so, it's kind of cool because there's no doubt, right, that warehouses are increasingly becoming digitally transformed or automated to really optimize for efficiencies, while still letting people do what they do best. And we have the robots, right, for picking and packing, and depending on how sophisticated or far along technologically different spaces are, we see more or less of these sort of automated tools. Well, the interesting thing is, right, there are robots for those things that can move things around that are very heavy, that do it at lightning speed and, do it with great efficiency. And we can imagine all those robots. Well, what about the other things that don't necessarily need to be done by a human, but instead could be better managed by a human, but the actions would be performed by a robot? And our robot really is the one that fills that space for things like surveillance, for things like auditing, inspecting, because again, right, we are very much actually working on computer vision ourselves. And within particular industries and niches around, for example, things that are out of place, the recording of certain things as capabilities. And, the nice thing is, right, this can automate that type of task. It can be done very conveniently. In fact, right, someone can literally get the feed of what's going on, or if there's an issue, or reviewing quality footage from their couch, But the reality is there will still need to be that review by a human at the end of the day to make that next decision to say, okay, so what? We've gathered the data very efficiently, but what happens next? How do we improve that? And that is kind of the beautiful marriage. And so in this warehousing space, that's exactly kind of the sort of ideal what's next coming.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think that would be huge, because even the size of warehouses now is you can't be everywhere at once as a manager, supervisor, even as a lead, so it's being able to have that further visibility and being able to like be alerted or something when something is amiss or going wrong would definitely be a huge benefit. And you can put cameras in the ceiling, on the wall, as much as you want, but you have limited visibility with that, and mobility as well, especially with a lot of racking and things like that in the way, and different visual blockages and things like that. So definitely really interesting technology, and definitely a lot of, I think, future runway as well to expand upon the solution and come up with new creative ways to utilize it as well. So Aaron, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to me about this and giving me a demo a little while back as well. So if people are interested in learning more about Ohmnilabs, how can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So a few different ways. You can definitely reach out directly, Aaron, Aaron, at ohmnilabs.com. That's OHMNILABS.com. And I'm sure we can, provide some links. But we can go ahead and visit also at www.ohmnilabs.com. We do offer free test drives and demos. We're very consultative in our approach, and we really view ourselves as a partner rather than a vendor. And so, part of us being a startup in this space is having those early conversations and showing, the technology. And so that's one of the beautiful things. And so get in touch in whatever way. It can be a best friend, but definitely we're happy to sort of connect with anyone interested.
Definitely. Yeah. And I would highly recommend taking the test drive. It's very cool. And it's pretty remarkable, actually, the limitless motion of it and how much you can really move it around and control yourself. So it's really cool. I would highly recommend checking it out. We'll put all those links at thenewwarehouse.com as well, so people can find it. So Aaron, once again, thank you for your time on today's show.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.